Something's coming, can't say when. Belt tied around me, heart within. Doors might open any moment now. Gotta be prepared somehow. I'm ready and waiting, fire burning bright. I'm ready and waiting through longest night. Won't let it die out, won't fade away. Ready and waiting for that day. Burning, burning, never gonna stop. Burning, burning, till the moment comes.
Evening, everybody. Glad you could make it. Thank you for coming. It's good to see you all. Tonight's going to be exciting because it's about Tartaria and the mud floods. Yes, it's a long time going because I don't know if you guys realize that this is a topic that's been in discussion for quite a while, especially between the flat earthers. And it's a sad thing to see how gullible people are just to accept it. You know what I mean? But it's good to see you guys. I'm glad you could make it. I'm going to give you the links to come in, obviously, and have the discussion on this. Because some people really do fervently believe that the mud floods are real and Tartaria is a historical civilization that is just wiped out from history, which is total nonsense. Because if you actually just do your history and look and research, you will understand that there is no actual, like I say, Tartarians that are erased from history. There were actually a group of people known as the Tartars, and those do show on the historical maps, and they were the Mongolians, guys, Genghis Khan's people. They were just known as the Tartars. You even get Tartars today, by the way. People still do live today, which are known as Tartars. I think it's about 3.8% of Russians in Russia are still known as Tartans today. So yes, there are definitely historical value behind it. But the issue that I do see with this is the people go and hinge off conspiracy theories, being gullible and just saying, you see, it's Tartaria's in this map, and you see mud floods because the buildings and things. Why is there buildings under the ground? Oh man! At the end of the day, it's just gullibility, and that's it. And it's sad to see so much people falling for that nonsense because there is no such thing as the mud floods, and Tartarians that you're trying to base off of that are supposed to be a so-called erased history is not erased. There's actual history for actual Tartars, just not in the sense the way you guys want them to be. But yeah, let's see what the votes say so far before I let anybody in. Tartaria mudflood comport with biblical history. Yes, 17%. No, 56%. Not sure, 22%. And could be 6%. I do believe, on a personal note, I do believe that the reason people are falling for Tartaria and the mud flood nonsense is because it's part of a great delusion, and it's because people today have a bias to try and suit a specific narrative they have. I've seen a kind of person that usually falls under this are like Satan short seasonists, apparently, because they believe the 1,000-year millennial reign and whatever, and a lot of the time it kind of comport to them because they believe history's been changed so much that obviously this has to make sense to them. But yeah, I do have some things we can go through. I'm going to put a link in for you guys. Really appreciate you all coming, by the way. The link is in the chat if anybody wants to come in and have a discussion on the subject. Let me see. Pinned message is up. There we go. So yes, if you do not agree with me, you're more than welcome to come in. If you do agree with me, you do you are welcome to come in as well. And just like Thomas says, Morgan, I disagree with you. Great, much love to you, Thomas. I agree with, even if we disagree with each other, everybody is allowed to have their own opinion. But I'm going to present you evidence on why I say it's not true, starting with how we can debunk the mud floods. What's up, David? Good to see you, man. Glad you can make it. Let's see. There is. Here we go. I found a great video explaining exactly what I am talking about. Because if you just look through history and archaeology and things, you'll be able to see why the mud floods are just false. It's sad that people think, oh, I see a building underneath, why is there doorways and levels under the ground, So there was some big mud flood recently. No, it's not how it works. There's a lot of explanation to why it is this way. And I think this video explains it actually much better than I think I would be able to do, to be honest. But I'm going to play some of it, and then we see what it says.
This is what the Roman Forum looked like in 1864, and this is what it looks like today. When archaeologists started digging here, they uncovered an entire world of ruins deep underground that hadn't been seen for centuries. Over time, the city had risen by more than 10 meters, and older buildings had been completely forgotten about. All over the world, you'll find ruins that are slowly being left behind by the constant rise of the streets, and modern cities that have been built on top of old ruins. The ancient city of Troy was rebuilt 10 times, forming 10 distinct layers, all built directly on top of each other.
There's the key right there. That's actually just practically what you need to know. You don't even need to go further than this. But yeah, remember, you have to understand that as we go through life, civilizations, the sedimentary rock and everything goes up. Dust is becoming more, everything's layering on top of each other, and everything is being built on each other. As it gets built up, that's why you have these cities underground, you could say.
Even the city of Seattle has an entire network of mysterious abandoned shops and houses buried beneath the modern streets. But why are cities built on top of each other? Is the street level actually rising? And why does history always end up buried deep underground? We modeled the entire thing to show you how civilizations build on top of each other. We'll also look at the crazy historical layers beneath Rome, these strange hills all over the Middle East, and the mysterious city purposefully buried beneath Seattle over 100 years ago.
Very, very... Hey, what's up, Sov? Good to see you, man. The link is above for you guys if you want to come in. Like I said, everybody has their own... can I say their own opinion on this? I'm just giving what I would call evidence for why I don't think mud flood actually happened, because there are actual ways we can look through this. But it's good to see you guys. Really appreciate you all coming. Make sure to hit the likes and share the show if possible.
There is no single reason why cities are built on top of each other. After the Great Fire of Rome in the 1st century, most of the city had to be rebuilt. But instead of clearing away the rubble, it was quicker and easier to simply flatten it out and build on top. This meant that new buildings were about a meter higher than the street. And so, to match the new height, the streets were raised and resurfaced, using rocks from the surrounding debris. With every fire and natural disaster that occurred, this process would repeat itself, raising the city and leaving old ruins buried underground. One of the clearest examples of this is the Basilica of San Clemente in Rome.
It's quite an interesting thing to look at. Yeah, I mean, like I say, if you do look through the archaeology, that does fit with what they're saying. And not to mention, let's for instance take Venice. We all know Venice does sink about, I think it's a centimeter a year or something. So even though you even get civilizations that are busy sinking, you also get sedimentary that keeps laying on to build up. And that definitely makes sense on why we do see when they have to excavate kind of things at archaeological sites, they have to dig and it takes them quite a while to clean. It's quite a few meters below the ground, because it used to be there, but ground has built up. Imagine thinking of, I don't know if anybody has ever seen like an old barn find, an old car or something in a barn. It's just been sitting for like 10, 20 years, and that dust has accumulated and is like thick. I mean, that's just thick dust. Okay. Now that's just dust alone. Now imagine in the open where there's a lot of, like they say, movement, there's natural disasters and so forth, and they're just building on top of the old things, and it's building up and up. And that's why we are able today to see levels of towns and everything way down under the ground. That's also true, David. Why no one wrote it down or passed it down that this massive wall of mud came and covered everything up? Someone would have wrote that. I agree. Someone would have. The fact that there is no archaeological or historical evidence for the claim of this mud flood tells me everything. And it's sad to see so many big channels do push the mud flood as just true. And that, and it's sad because it's like, dude, did you even do the research on this? Did you even look into the Tartarians and the mud floods? Or did you just say, oh, I found some old maps. There we see Tartaria. Let's look at some fake photos and say, well, this just doesn't make sense. So obviously history's been changed because my bias says so. It's unfortunate, like I said, the type of people that do fall for it, unfortunately, are very gullible, and they fall for every trick under the sun. I just don't know how else to say it, but that's just what it is.
The structure we see today is from the 12th century, but it was built directly on top of an old church from the 4th century. That church was built directly on top of a mysterious old temple. And that temple was built on top of an old house.
This is what got me into looking into the Tartarian mud flood thing there, was exactly this church. Looking at how they were able to get all the levels. And that's also a very good point, Thomas. What if what they're calling a mud flood is really Noah's flood? The thing that I can think of that, yes, but the thing that the problem is, if you look at the architecture, it doesn't really fit Noah's flood, because Noah's flood is what, 4,000 years ago, where the architecture we see today is maybe 100 years ago, maybe a few hundred years, but I wouldn't put it as 4,000 years type of architecture, because every kind of millennia they have a certain design with the buildings, and I don't think it would fit when it comes to the timeline of Noah's flood. But that's, again, just my own opinion. Everybody has their own opinions. But is there any evidence for Noah's flood? Oh, yes, definitely a lot of evidence for Noah's flood. You can go look at mountains. High mountains have even sedimentary rock that's shown with large compression of water and mud, and burials of animals and things that can only happen with big cataclysmic events, like a lot of pressure from water and mud and stuff on top of mountains, which would be impossible other than Noah's flood. Thomas, the reason how we would know it is 4,000 years ago is because the Bible gives us all the genealogies. And if you trace back the genealogies, even just to Jesus, it fits to about 4,000 years ago. So that's how I do know it is 4,000 years. Because I base everything practically what I see on Bible, and I know I can trust the Bible's history and archaeological facts because it's been shown through history to be very accurate on geography and based on evidence for anything archaeologically sound. Let's put it that way. Mud flood is ash falling from the sky. No stress, Thomas. If you can't come, it doesn't matter. But it'd be great to have you on if you're able to, man. Yes, Exactly, David. They say the mud flood is supposed to be very recent, and that's what I disagree with. Um, I think there's a lot of evidence for why the mud flood isn't true. I haven't really seen any evidence for mud flood other than they're just doing what globies do. Trust me, bro. Here's a photo. Why is there a doorway underneath the ground? Well, like I said, there is actual historical documentation that shows why. There's archaeological evidence that shows why. We got reasons for what you are able to see. There's reasons for why you see, for instance, you're going to show now with Seattle, where there is a whole bunch of kind of cities, you could say, underneath, but it's was made to keep up with the times. It was made for convenience. Um, I mean, heck, if the Tartarian mudflood people just actually went to the library, maybe they might be able to get this information. Refraction caused it. Exactly.
House, and there are even older ruins beneath that. All in all, the valley in which San Clemente lies is now 18 meters higher than it was in the 1st century. Here's what happened.
Interesting.
Back in 1st century Rome, before the Colosseum was built, a Roman villa sat at the bottom of the valley. After being damaged in a fire, it was converted into a temple by the Mithra people, a mysterious cult which was gaining popularity throughout Rome. But by the end of the 4th century, the temple was partially destroyed by the Christians. Looking to promote their religion, they decided to build a new basilica on top of the old temple. This basilica served the Christians for another 800 years. But by the 12th century, it fell into disrepair.
Crazy.
After multiple fires and rebuilds around the basilica, the street level had risen considerably. And so instead of knocking it down,
They just
a
built
new
on top.
basilica was built on top.
That's all they do. They just keep building on top. And I notice how it's compacting on top of one another. Compacting on top, compacting on top. And the ground level is raising. The ground level is raising. That's also a good point that you made, Graham. The calendar was changed in the 16th century. Yeah, because they changed it to the Gregorian calendar from the moon. So that also does change dates slightly, but you are still able to use the original dates and can trace back. And like I said, Noah's flood will go back to about 4,000 years. So it does fit still.
This is the one we see today. Eventually, the ruins beneath the basilica were filled in, and because no one kept track, all knowledge of the previous layers was completely lost. But in the 1800s, an archaeologist started digging and unearthed the old basilica with a
There we go. Unearthed the old basilica.
staircase leading down to the 1st century temple. Inside was a Mithra shrine, and scrolled on the walls were paintings
Can you believe
dedicated
it?
to the Mithra god. And
Okay, obviously this is going to be... He's opera mini. There we go. Don't need to watch that.
we've seen how Rome is built almost entirely on old ruin.
I mean, this is also why you see how much higher the ground is. You can clearly see how much higher the ground is where the people are walking on the walkway, and this town is lower. There we go. Exactly, Didi. If you've been to Rome, you would know that the Pantheon was built like 2,000 years ago and was on a small hill. And as the city was rebuilt over and over, around the street level is now at its level. Very true. Exactly, Didi. Let's see who's coming in. I heard a pling, but I see no one coming in yet. There we go. T. Morgan. Hey, how's it going? How's it going, Thomas? I don't know if you're...
There we are.
Good to see you.
How you doing, Flat Sword?
Oh, great in yourself, man. Glad you could come in.
Should I call you Keith? Is that your name, right, Keith?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, man. Yeah, my name's Keith. And Soft's in the house as well. Hey, Soft, what's up, man?
What's going on, man?
Good,
Who's your
good,
blank?
good.
Who's our blank friend in the middle? Do we get some audio?
Thomas Morgan, he is busy driving, so I think he's going to struggle to
Uh,
talk there. Yeah, yeah. So, what is your thoughts on the mud flood in Tartaria?
well, I gotta wonder. You know, we can go by what we call archaeological evidence, but there's a lot of archaeological anomalies too that don't make any sense. Like, how do you lose an entire city under 40 feet of sand? Why is there an area that is now the barren Sahara Desert shown as lush, tropical, and inhabited with all kinds of flora and fauna? So there is evidence that there's something has happened. And I can't go by his story that we're given, so to speak. I don't, no matter where it's the fact that, wow,
Oh, sorry,
that we know
Thomas.
that the Vatican has hidden information, kept information away from the public. Um, Other cultures that have stories within a timeline that we call the Dark Ages that we don't even know about, we never even hear about. So there's like this whole 1,000-year period of time where just nothing happened. People just walked around being superstitious with their heads bowed down and everything was terrible. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. There's something that has happened. Now, yes, it's plausible for some of these ruins, like they say, that it's been built up over and over, but let's look at Luxor. How the hell do you lose an entire city under 40 feet of sand? Street levels don't be built up high enough to go an entire story or more. That just doesn't happen. And if it does, they demolish what's underneath because of the fact that that's going to cause a weak structure when you've got that. If you've not planned it out that way, you can't just bury a building and hope it stands to everything that's piled up over top of it. So I think that I don't think it was a one thing at one time. Like when they say mud flood, you picture like the entire earth is deluged in some kind of a flood of silt and mud and water, kind of consistent with the flood of Noah, which is also reiterated in the stories of Gilgamesh and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, the
So
Epic of Gilgamesh.
yeah, there's a lot that you see that we just don't know, and we're trying to piece together shit from what they've let us know and what they've told us, which we're finding out a lot of it is just fabricated. Um, I've looked at this channel called My Lunch Break, and some of you may be familiar with that. And when you go into looking at the details into a lot of these structures and these events, it's doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. The amount of people that it would have required, the logistics that would have been required for such feats, and anything you see of any photographic evidence usually looks like it's not construction, but repair or renovation. And it's like, you mean to tell me that 500 people migrated to Salt Lake City, men, women, children, all old people, young people, right? But there was enough skilled artisans, craftsmen, marble workers, and masons and things that they built this tabernacle in this entire city in this short period of time. I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying even up into what we would consider modern history that the Empire State Building only took 1 year to build. So there's obvious evidence that our history is bullshit, things that they've told us, and even up to what we would consider a short period of time ago. And it's always just they're hiding something. They're hiding something, and I can't go by that. And building up streets to bury buildings. I'm sorry, man, it just doesn't cut it. Even if they have to resurface a road and it's going to make it higher, they doze it out and they level it and they redo the whole thing. They don't just keep building on top of it until you got look like a stack of bacon for roads going down the road. It just doesn't cut it, man.
But I mean, if you look at, for instance, um, Jesus' burial tomb, they had to excavate it also from quite a distance because I mean, when Rome did destroy the temple and everything, and he built um, these what's it? I think it was a temple for Jupiter on top of the burial. It got buried quite a way down, and I mean, today it is excavated to be quite a low way down. So it does fit this narrative, though.
Who we got? Who's that in the little
That's
bubble over
Thomas.
there?
It's Thomas Morgan.
Hello, Thomas. Hang on, I got to go shut my dog up.
I got to go
Yeah.
shut my children quickly. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry, guys.
How's my audio right now? Can you hear me? The headset's dead.
Sorry about that. Children. So what's up, Thomas? What do you have to say?
Can you hear my audio on this one?
Yeah. Much better, man.
Okay. Yeah, I'm using my 5G instead of the 4G. I got a tablet and I got my cell phone. Actually, got 2 phones. I drive truck over the road. Been doing it like 20 years.
Oh, that's quite cool. So you see quite a lot of places.
Oh, yeah. All right, turn you up there. There you go. I was trying to get my headsets to work. So I want to work on that. I agree that I don't know, like 1,000 years seems to be missing. As far as the timeline, I'm kind of in the 7-day, 7,000 year. I kind of agree with that. Like Earth can't be no more than 7,000 years. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
The billions, that's no way. Millions, I don't even think millions of years. I think mankind would have already ruined it if it's created. I think we would have already polluted it enough. Maybe say it that way. I don't know. Destroyed it. I don't think we can destroy it, but
Well,
I think it
also
would
if
be
you
way worse. I think it would be way worse than it is now. Put it that way.
Well,
If the timeline been that long.
yeah, well, if you also look at entropy, I think you can only have so much of things being destroyed and transferring. You know what I mean? That's why I can't buy this
Right?
whole
I think I've
nonsense of
heard that.
billions of years or thousands of billions and trillions of years. I don't buy that.
Oh, then it turn it off.
Yeah,
I wasn't wanting to turn it off. No. Speak me that way, and you can see where I'm at. There you are. Bam. That's pretty cool.
that's a bit. Yeah, that's a nice sight. Do you notice how the
I'm
clouds?
leaving.
Do you notice how the clouds stay where they are?
Oh, the clouds are beautiful. Well, the clouds are beautiful today. They're actually natural.
Yep.
You can see a little bit of fake clouds in the background. But I think we're in Armageddon. I think God has put it on my heart enough in the last 5 years. I've been in flat Earth since 2016. But I would say, yeah, about 5 years ago, it really hit me. The prophets, the Old Testament, and I love the New Testament also, but the Old Testament really opened itself to me. I don't know where that puts us. If Christ came, reigned 1,000 years, how all that works, I have no clue. But I feel like we are in Armageddon now, wherever that puts us.
Well, the thing is, the Bible is very specific when Armageddon has to take place. And Armageddon is going to have to take place when after the temple is built.
It's weird. The
I've heard
headset
that
was
they built the temple already underneath the dome. I've heard that from a couple of different places where they're saying that there's evidence to support that they've actually built this temple underneath the dome.
Well, they did. I have seen video footage of Benjamin Nati showing the tunnels and things under the dome.
What is it with those people in the tunnels, man? They're like all the time digging tunnels everywhere.
tunnels.
They got them all
Way
over
to go,
in
man.
Israel. They're all over in Brooklyn. They're all over. I mean, it's like they just have this little network of tunnels and shit everywhere.
The thing I found very interesting, I don't know if you guys saw it, was like a whole few years ago where they showed like a whole pipeline of, it's like kilometers and kilometers of underground tunnels. Like
Yeah.
they're in America, built into under mountain, and it's only government based.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one guy went there. The only reason he was able to film was because he was a truck driver,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he had to go deliver something.
Where do they go in? I think it's someplace in Missouri.
I don't know. I can't remember. It was like in a mountain, and then it goes
Mhm.
down,
Yep.
and it's just kilometers and kilometers of. You can even get lost in there.
Well, there was a video going around a while ago about a tunnel system in Hollywood where this guy, he claimed that he worked at a Starbucks down there, and it was only like for the elite that come down through there. I don't know. It's hard to say because they have found like this guy in the early 20th century, they was excavating in LA and found subway tunnels that were already there, tiled and everything. It's like, where did those come from?
It's very interesting.
And that's the kind of anomaly. See, that got me started early as a youngster, because I was always interested in historical things and archaeology and that kind of thing. And then there's these anomalies that we run across that just don't make any sense. Like those, I forget what it's called. It's a really, really hard black stone. And there's these like what look like to be sarcophagus that have been carved out of this really hard, and you can put a framing square in there and it's perfect. And I'm supposed to believe that hammer and chisel people did this.
Yeah,
No,
sometimes it makes you wonder the timelines that they claimed to have built the things with the tools they had.
right.
That sometimes makes it wonder. You know what I mean? It's like, is that really true?
The symmetry in some of those
It's
huge
perfect,
statues.
yeah.
There's like no way you could do that perfect by hand like that.
I'm just trying to see. Trying to see if I can find that video. Because I know they took it down at a stage. They don't like people seeing stuff like that.
Right by where I lived in California, right back behind my house was the Coso Mountains, or what they're called. And there's some really cool geological specimens you can get out of there. And one that somebody found up in there was a spark plug, a fossilized spark plug in a stone.
How?
Yeah, exactly. It's called I think they call it the Coso artifact with a C. Let me see if I can find it.
I think it
There it
was.
is. Yeah, Coso artifact. Do an image search here.
He has one of them. Yeah. He has one of the videos where a truck driver sees like a whole bunch of tunnels and stuff. Now notice this is under DC, Washington DC.
DC domain, okay.
Yeah.
Colorado.
In 2013, a video was uploaded to YouTube of a trucker talking to a man about a massive underground secret city that was being built in the United States.
Quite
They had
crazy.
to take this tunnel 100 miles in to reach this place. And apparently there were more of these tunnels. Check this out.
But that's the thing what I don't get is you can't find these videos really anymore. Been looking everywhere for these videos.
Goes all the way to Washington, D.C., huh? Goes all the way to Washington, D.C. Yeah, you security? Yeah. How far have you taken this down to, how far have you actually ran a load?
What the?
100 miles? Up to Maine? No shit.
Wow.
How many miles do you think that is? Man, that's unbelievable. Not to mention, I heard there's one that goes all the way to Colorado, right? Unbelievable. What do you think you're hauling? Any idea?
So you can see it.
It runs completely underground. And this is stocked with food, water, everything they need. It's an underground city.
That's crazy.
So, this is the north entrance, and we're going to go see if we can do some more digging.
And that's the thing. I don't get any more information on that anymore.
There's a Koso artifact. They cut it in half, and it's got like there's a metal post running through the middle of it, a ceramic type material around it, and there's x-rays of it from the side. It's not like any known spark plug, but it's the exact same design as one.
So it
That
has
was-
the same understanding of the engineering behind the spark
Yeah.
plug.
And it's like, where the hell did that come from? You know, little shit like that you run across. This, they call it forbidden archaeology. You know,
Mhm.
that's what they called it back then. And you look into some of the stuff, Michael Tellinger, and there's a few people that they've gone back into some of this and doing extensive research into it.
I'll just say DD says maybe, and just maybe because it was a bullshit video. No. The video that I'm talking about, you could actually see the guy driving through the tunnel. And remember, this is long, long before you have AI to make videos for you and being able to do everything. It's literally just the guy's driving through long tunnels and going and going and going and going and showing the vast. And it's big. It's not like it's small. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like big, huge, tall ceilings inside there. I see cars parked in there too, at places where there's little doors and stuff going into the side. I've seen the video you're talking about. And and one of the things you start to figure out is a lot of these tunnels were already here. They don't even know where they
Yeah.
came from.
Yeah, they could have just built up on them.
What was that? Let me see if I can find that.
Aha, this is the one I want to go to. Okay. So anyway, let's get back. Monday.com. Okay, let's get to the Seattle part of the building. This is what I actually wanted to show with this video earlier, where they're talking about why the Seattle. Because I know a lot of people that like to bring up the mudfloods and stuff do bring this part up of Seattle, where they see the underground. What's names?
Is only 175 years old. It already has an entire network of streets and abandoned buildings hidden beneath the modern city. In 1889, a devastating fire ripped through the newly formed city, and just like Rome, almost everything had to be rebuilt. The mayor took this as an opportunity to drastically improve the city's design, which already had huge problems with flooding. The idea was to raise the entire city and install drainage pipes underneath the streets, allowing the water to naturally flow out to the sea. To pull this off, 6-meter-high stone walls were built on either side of the streets, and roads were built on top. For a while, Seattle went through a weird phase with its buildings sat 2 stories below street level, and people had to descend on ladders to get to shops and houses. Eventually, the gaps were filled in and proper sidewalks were installed, leaving behind a well-preserved city right beneath Seattle's streets. And now, time for the Primal Space giveaway.
And that's it. See, that's what I was saying. It's quite interesting.
So all those shop people had to accommodate their architecture to match up to what this bird wanted to do with the city. That means that they had to reframe out the very front of the building to be able to put in steps, a doorway, what have you, to get in there. Maybe use an existing window. I don't know. It'd be like, so who ended up having to foot the bill for that? Was that on to the shop? That would be interesting because there would be a lot of pushback. What the hell do you mean I got to do it? You raised the road. I mean, what kind of a standoff would that be? Then the city says, well, if you want your business to survive, you're going to have to open it. I don't know, man. It'd be a sticky problem.
Yeah, it makes it difficult. Because I say there is answers for that,
But
but
they
there
did this
also but there's a lot of but there's also a lot of unanswered answers. You know what I mean?
right, because it would be like they've done this to this many cities. This many cities they've done that because they're finding out that it's under LA, they're finding out that it's under New York, they're finding out that it's under all these different cities around the world. That there's this labyrinth of part of an underground civilization. You know, buildings, parts of buildings, streets, the whole nine yards. That would mean that all these cities had to have undergone some kind of a street raising project.
I've seen a lot of I don't know if you ever heard of the star forts?
Yeah.
And then I automatically, when I started hearing when they talk about the star fort, I was thinking of the Castle of Good Hope in Cape Town.
Uh huh.
It looks just like a star, but if you look at the architecture, they claimed it was just strategically placed that way.
No, that's harmonic.
Was placed that way for defensive purposes, and also if you saw in the 1800s, there was water right around.
Yeah.
There was more water in Cape Town around the 1800s than there is now.
I think the water was the key component to the function of the star. I do.
So
Because you see them now in areas where they've purposely diverted the water different areas, and now they've got streets where the water used to be. And it's like,
well,
why? Why did we move the water out of here? The water, there's something about the water and the harmonics of that shape as the water flows around it that it has energetic properties, I believe. There's a labyrinth of water that runs under the pyramids. All these places like that, you see that the water is a key component to it. That guy, you can get a lot of insight into this if you start looking into Edward Leedskalnin, who built Coral Castle in Homestead, Florida. Have you ever looked into the Coral Castle?
mhm.
The guy built this megalithic structure by himself, little guy that was like 5'8" from Latvia. He was trying to get his sweetheart from over there to come over and marry him. And he left clues as to how he built it in there. People have been trying to figure it out for a long time. It has to do with Mercury, moon alignment, and frequency. Most of all, frequency. They say he would unload these quarried blocks and set them all by himself. Nobody could figure out how he did it. And there's something about sound because there was these kids that hid in the bushes to watch him. And they
Yeah.
came home and they said, "We know how the man moves those blocks." And they asked him, "Well, how?" He says, "He uses ice cream cones." And of course, they dismissed it. But amongst his artifacts are these conical shaped objects that look like they're for directing sound.
I
Or
actually saw I think it was a few months ago, I actually saw someone where he uses that kind of technology to move large boulders and things. It's all based on
levitation.
vibration.
Yep.
And the people couldn't figure out how he does it on his own.
And they still can't figure it out. One recently, within the last few years, one of these doors, it was a big quarried coral door, heavy, that you could just push it with your finger and it would open. It was perfect, perfectly balanced. Well, it broke. They called in the best engineers they could find, and none of them could figure out how to put it back the way that it was built. None of them could figure out what he did to make it work like it did.
What's your thought on the Statue of Liberty?
Straight up, that's Lucifer, man. Straight
Mhm.
up.
On top of the Star Fort, though.
Uh-huh. The energy, there again. It has become, a symbol of America, although it was replicated in France and then given to the US. I mean, it's like that's kind of a weird story. Why? Why did they do this? Why do we have this thing? Why is so much emphasis put on it and we use it as a symbol of our country? when the original's on the Seine River in France, and only a couple of meters big. It's not as big as the one here.
But that's also what I don't understand. Like, especially today with governments, when they're trying for power, they go nuclear rather than hydro dams or something. I mean, you understand that the water gives quite a lot of power. If you just have a hydro dam, it's much more safer than the nuclear plants, and
Yeah.
it's cheaper as well. So it's really weird that they always move rather to nuclear fission rather than just use hydro plants.
Exactly. Like that, Tesla was involved with the one the in Niagara Falls. There's a hydroelectric plant there, and he was involved with the production, with the building and setup of that thing too. He knew the water is integral to everything here. It's right in the beginning of the Bible. It starts out with the waters. The water is one of the most important things. We can't live without it. It has its duality, just like everything else. It's essential. We need it for life, but it can also kill you. It's got a duality about it.
Hmm. Uh, yes, Mr. Gurias. Obviously, the hydro plants will only really work where there's water. No shit, Sherlock.
Wasn't there a guy trying to bring running water to the desert? And then we went over there and killed him and laughed about it. Oh yeah, Gaddafi. That's right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, like, when was it? How about, I think it was like 10 years ago or something, where they were, even in South Africa, they were trying to put a water filtration system up at the sea to get all the salt content out so there can be fresh
Yeah,
drinking water.
desalinization. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they started to scrap it because, like, oh, it's just going to cost too much. It's like, so fresh water is just going to cost too much, but you can waste money on other rubbish.
Mm-hmm. And it's not really that hard of a process to remove the salinity from water at all. It's nothing more than
You can do it. You can do it with a few water bottles on the beach if you want to, just using the sun.
Yep. Yep. So it's like, yeah, that's just an excuse. And this is the thing too. It's like I think they're lying about what it actually is. We call it H2O, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. But I think it's more complex than that. I think there's a much, much more to it. If you take the atomic weights of each of those elements, 2 hydrogens, 2 oxygens, it doesn't add up. It doesn't work. There's something else there, obviously, because if you add those together, they come up lacking.
Toxic salt. Sorry, I got
Toxic.
this up. Toxic salt. Ocean salt. Oh man. You do know that people literally take salt out of the ocean. It's called sea salt, and
Yeah.
they sell it.
Salts you need it. You need salts. You need
Toxic.
salts. Salts are a metal. Salts are a metal. And they are part of the electrical conductive system that you have that makes you
Yeah,
operate and function. You have to have salt.
yeah. There's a reason why they don't want to make fresh water that way. Is because you pay a lot of money for water. So if they have to make it a necessity that you have to pay for, why will they go now and make it so abundant that it'll either be dirt cheap to get, or you won't be relying on it anymore? Because at the moment they need to make the whole how can I say storyline, guys, save the planet.
Uh,
It's all this nonsense that what's it, climate change.
yeah. Yep. You
We
just
need
got you.
drinking water for our future generations.
Uh-huh. What? There's
You can
plenty of
literally make
water.
it now.
You live on water. There's water everywhere. It's just that people are controlling it. It's like if you dig too deep and hit water, like I know this in California, if you dig a well too deep and hit water, you can't use it. You hit
Hmm.
primary water, they won't let you use it. They won't approve the well. Why?
Hmm.
because it's beneficial to you. If they keep you sick and weak, you're easier to control. And that's the whole point. And that's what's interesting. And here's the thing I had about salt when he mentioned that toxic salt. I think that low sodium salt is toxic. Think about this. Sodium, sodium chloride, right? Sodium will kill you. Chloride will kill you. Mixed together, they become table salt. Now, if I reduce, it seems like they neutralize the poisonous aspect of each one of them. Now, if I take out half of the ingredient of one component, such as sodium, and have an abundance of the chloride as opposed to it, it sounds to me like you're getting chloride, which you shouldn't have without the sodium. And they tell you that, oh, it's for your blood pressure and all that other. And it's like, look, you guys got it all wrong in the first place. You think your heart's a pump. Your heart's not a pump, man. It's a valve. Your lungs are the pump. They don't get it. This is the research they're doing into it. The heart's not the pump. It's the valve. The pump is your lungs. So why would I listen to them about what, oh, you need this in your body. You need a blue jay to peck the blood out. That's what you need. Yeah, it's like witch doctor crap all the time.
Well, the thing is also too much of a thing is also bad.
That's what I said. Like with water, too much will kill you. Not enough will kill you. You need it. It's essential, but there has to be that. Like everything, there has to be
balance.
a balance.
Everything
Delicate
has balance. No, that's true.
Food, same way. Too much of it will kill you. Not enough of it will kill you. You have to keep a balance. Because what happens if you get too much of it? You start becoming overweight. You start slowing down. You're not able to do things. Your health starts to decrease from it. You start developing problems with your breathing. You start developing problems with your heart, your circulation. Diabetes sets in. So there's that. You don't eat enough, you succumb to starvation. Your body starts to consume itself. There again, a delicate balance.
So true. Oh, man. Yes, they do manipulate the weather. It's called weather manipulation for a reason. I don't know if you've heard of HARP before.
So you mean to tell me that several states in America have decided to ban a conspiracy theory by passing legislation to stop the chemtrailing? Now they're wanting to aerosolize, and if they're just talking about it, they're already doing it. Aerosolizing these MMR jabs so that people are breathing them in, getting it administered on people that way, forced medication. And they've been doing that anyways. They drop in sedatives on us and shit all the time, man.
I was going to say thank you, Derek Nelson, for your $2 super chat with no comment. Maybe just leave a comment and I'll put it up. But thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it, man. You rock.
Trying to find that article.
Yeah, we're waiting for the topic because the topic is Tartaria, but the people in chat aren't really coming up to talk about it. That's the way.
Well, I'm a little suspicious of that too, because you got Tartaria, and I also look at the word Tartarus. And I'm wondering,
the thing is, the history with the Tartarians, there were Tartars, and those were the Mongolians. The Mongolians were known as Tartarus people. You still get some of them today in Russia. I think it's almost like 4% of Russians today are still Tartarian, are known as Tartars.
Tartars, yeah. I worked with two different girls at the same time. That they're one of them, she was from Belarus, White Russia. And the other girl was from closer to the Ukraine. And the girl from Belarus, she says, no, she's not Russian. She is Tartar. And I was like, what the fuck is a Tartar? I was like, I'd never heard that before. Up until then, I didn't know. I thought, tartar sauce. That was the only thing that I could cream of tartar spice. I don't know
You
what we
see the
got
thing.
going on here.
You see, the thing I've got an issue with when it comes to this Tartarian kind of thing is because they see Tartar written on, or Tartaria on the maps, and if now they immediately associate that with a civilization that's just been wiped out. They're not telling us what's going on, instead of understanding, no, there is actual history for those people actually do exist still today. It's just the Mongolians. They were known as the Tartars people. That's all it
But
was.
they seem to be all over the world, though, because there's
Yeah,
references
all
to them
over.
about on every continent. I mean, I'm wondering why there were references then and not now. You
Yeah.
see, that's the thing, and I know that these people control information. They control the narrative of what people find out, what they hear about. Follow this mainstream archaeology. Don't listen to this other site that found shit that contradicts our story. As soon as you start to find something that contradicts their story, they want to shut that down. Because the real thing is they're just going by a story. They don't really know either. They're going by a story that they were told. And we know that there's been a lot of our history has been hidden from us purposely. And the reason is why? Why?
We've actually got,
What
yeah,
could be dangerous about that information to the control structure that is hiding it?
actually, yeah. I've actually got some maps up that I've been seeing
Yeah, yeah.
where they show, like, because I know the Grand Tartari, they were in the old maps there. That was kind of, speaking of Russia, the whole of Russia kind of thing, when it was Grand. Because if you look, they have difference with Grand Tartari, small, and just Tartar in itself. See, there's Russia. And
Mhm.
if you look, where was it now? There, Tartazan, you see? Then Kazakhstan.
Mhm.
So it's like there's Kazakhstan, but this Kazan is like literally a certain point in Russia that they were putting on. Actually, very interesting stuff. See, the Mongolians, Magnus Chamkod, Rudotarium, Purnaxmat. See,
Well, we
there we
don't
go.
give
Location extended. It was likely intended to represent the Mongolian Empire. However, by 1570, when the atlas was printed, the Mongol Empire had been fragmented for about 200 years, while many Canaanites, Canaanites. What is this? How can you pronounce this? Because that's not
Kanate,
Canaanites.
Kanates.
Yeah, whatever. Endured no single great Khan. Ruled over such a large area, the map also includes the Tartaria areas of North
Oh, Kanates. Those that
Khan.
were under the Great Khan.
Of the Genghis Khan. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Now, he did conquer a lot of the known world, man. He was, yeah. What they say, everybody in somewhere they can trace part of their lineage back to that guy because he was just like breeding with every
Well, he had
woman.
how many wives? How many concubines? It's like crazy.
Dude was having a party, boy. That's all there was to it.
He
He
never
was the
stopped.
first Diddy. He was the first Diddy. That's what was going on.
Well, did you find? I find it interesting. Diddy was acquitted with a lot for most of his things.
Yeah, I knew he would be. The prosecution didn't make any worth a shit case about it. And I got a suspicion about that anyways. They were just wanting to get that shit into the hands of uh who's the prosecutor is James Comey's daughter. They just want that in their own hands for their own blackmail purposes. That's all this thing was all about.
Um,
Because I was like, are you even trying to make your case at all? Or are you just going to bring out all this salacious crap that he did that has nothing to do with the charges that you brought against him? And the defense wasn't even objecting to it. They were just letting it ride. If I was a defense attorney, I'd be saying, what are we doing here, man? You either stick to the charges or get off the stand. We don't need this. It's just
mhm.
slanderous and libelous. That's what I would have claimed. I'm not saying that he's a good guy or anything like that. I'm just saying that he just they failed to make a case.
And that's usually how courts work, though. If you don't bring enough evidence, it gets thrown out. even if the person's guilty or not. If you don't bring the evidence,
Yeah, I
what can
mean,
you do?
it's not illegal to be a pervert. Okay, it's not illegal to have an orgy. Okay, none of this stuff that they brought up was illegal. Although the public was sitting there going, "Oh, did you hear about what Diddy did? Oh, all this other shit." And I was like, "What's this got to do with the trafficking? What's this got? Where's the RICO?" So they ended up only finding him guilty on transporting sex workers across state lines. That's basically all they got. And that wasn't even close to what they were trying to get him for. They didn't find him guilty on any of the other stuff. So I think easy now, guys. I think it was a distraction. I think it was a huge distraction away from other stuff and a lot of stuff that people aren't paying
But
attention
that's
to.
also the thing that happens a lot. Things
Yeah,
like this usually do start popping up all over, and then people worry about that and they don't realize things going on around.
right.
I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
look at
the
the whole
big
thing with.
beautiful bill.
I mean, look when they were starting with the whole Tate thing as well.
Yeah,
That they kept it going on and on and on.
yeah,
Everybody was just looking at that and ignoring the rest of the things going around everywhere
yeah.
because that's all they're looking at.
Well, they just passed through this with the help of Palantir Peter Thiel's buddy J.D. Vance. That in this big beautiful bill, everybody was focused on. Oh, look, they're not going to have tax on tips, and they're going to have to not tax overtime and all that. They had their eyes set on that prize, and not really looking at the fact that in there is a thing that they can't put any restrictions on AI for 10 years. Meanwhile, these AI tech CEOs from Palantir and from Meta and these others were given commissioned military ranks of lieutenant colonel in the armed forces, never went through a day's training of military service, never once. And they were just given field grade commissions to lieutenant colonel. So wait a second, you can't put any restrictions on AI. You just made the AI CEOs military field grade commanders, and what? And they're the ones that are responsible for they power this. Palantir powers the Israeli targeting systems, where they can actually feed in through photo recognition anybody that they want to off, and they send these drones out, and the thing goes and looks for them and kills them and shit. This is coming to America. They're putting this surveillance system down right here in America. It's going to be all over the place. If we
Yeah,
don't
well,
stop it, once it's in, we can't get rid of it. We can't get rid of it.
yeah, but once it's in, it's in. But that's the whole plan for everything. They need the system in everywhere.
So I saw this movie one time about where an AI system actually became conscious and decided to eradicate human beings and shit. And they went around and
What's the name? Something with a Skynet. I know it's got something
yeah,
with the
yeah, yeah. Well, they sent this robot back into the past to kill
T.
Yeah, I know. It's just like that. And there was another little. It was kind of a crappy movie I watched here about a week ago with Jennifer Lopez was in it, and she was the daughter of a woman who'd created this AI system that had gone rogue and was now at war with the humans. And and they even had the Neuralink thing, man. These people would be synced up with this like robot thing that they could get into and all that. And she was like, okay, so for this briefing, it's all going to be on paper. It's going to be all analog. And they're like, what? So we can't risk your Neuralink thing picking up our plans and feeding it to the AI superstructure. So here's what's going to, and I was just like, holy shit, they're throwing it right in our face of what's coming.
Yeah, but they're normalizing it. They're making it seem cool. You know what I mean? There's like, they it kind of puts a picture like, that's just a movie. Movies aren't real, so don't trust it. It's not going to be the same.
Well, there was recently an influencer that was from China, and she was doing this thing about how cool this chip that she had in her was. It unlocked her door to her apartment. It paid all her bills and everything. And then she made on social media some comments that were not approved of. Next thing you know, she was just shut off. She was shut off. And she made another video. She goes, I told about what a great idea, but I didn't look at the negative shit. I can't even get into my house and my cat's in there. Just shut you down at the flip of a switch. It's that simple. They almost can do it right now with your debit cards and your credit cards and all that. They can just wipe your existence away, because there's a lot of people that aren't even ever dealing with cash. And they just passed the thing starting today. The Shenandoah National Park is no longer going to take cash. That means everybody that goes up there to visit the park, goes up there to stay in the cabins and go on the Skyline Drive, they have to pay digitally.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm thinking of challenging it myself, because I go up there and if you offer cash and they refuse it, then that makes the debt null and void. Because it says on the cash that it's legal tender for all debts, public and private. And if you refuse payment for a debt, you've just nullified the debt.
That is true.
That's how I got away when I paid my taxes. I paid in change. And I went down there and the lady, the treasurer, she come out and she goes, oh, I'm sorry, you can't do it. You're going to have to take that to the bank. I said, are you refusing my payment of legal tender? And she stopped real quick because she knew what that meant. I says, and I went ahead and told her so everybody else could hear it too. I says, if you refuse my payment of legal tender, that nullifies the void. That nullifies the debt. And she just kind of looked at me and she told the girl, she goes, go ahead, count it up. So yeah, you don't want to take the money. That's going to cancel the debt.
But I mean, look at how even the social credit score works there in China at the moment.
Yeah,
It's quite hectic. I mean,
Yeah.
even if a person smiles wrong, they lose points.
Yep. I won't be able to do shit. I won't be able
The fact is, like, people are even, that's why even if people, like, I saw a thing the other day was like people are lying down on the ground because of an accident or whatever, and the people are too scared to even help because they're scared they will lose their credit score.
Yes. Yep.
So they rather act like nothing's going on and they just carry on going on with their lives.
Just like, yeah, oh, this is just normal. Never mind. Yeah. And this has already been illustrated so in so many dystopic, futuristic movies of that very same thing, what you're talking about right there. And it gets to the point where, think about that. If Jesus had been crucified today, there'd be people standing down there going, you should have just obeyed the law. Why didn't you obey their command? It's like, wow.
Too many Karens today. Yeah, you see, it wouldn't have worked today.
Nope.
If you think of how everything is today, it wouldn't have worked today. They would have just seen him as some lunatic.
Yep. I don't know.
Yeah, because I always think to myself, why specifically that time? And then you think, yeah, well, if you look at how everything is today, with social norms and everything, you wouldn't have got anywhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at just how the morality standards have gone down, right?
Mm-hmm.
These women are out there; they got a body count in the teens or higher, and then wonder why they can't find a husband. And that seems to be the norm. There's more kids running around with divorced parents than there are with married parents.
But also, I don't know if you like seen it. It's like it's now it's normalized for people in their late 20s to not even have a girlfriend or a boyfriend yet or whatever, just to get married, or you know what I mean. It's like they literally just have flings or whatever.
Hookup.
Yeah, they just have hookups, and then they get proud of it and then say it all over the internet, and then later on it's like, oh, no, I can't find a husband or I can't find a wife. It's like, oh, why do you think?
Yeah. And this is push, though. This is push. This is the liberation. This is how they liberate. And this is the thing. I can understand liberty from government, but what they're looking for is absolute liberty from all accountability, from God's law. That's what they're looking for liberty from. They want to make their own law, regardless if it goes against natural law.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's just, there again, trying to be God. Every time man tries to be God, it ends up in disaster. Every time.
Mhm.
That's what somebody asked me. He said, well, you haven't had any vaccinations? And I said, no, not since I was a kid, man. And they were like, well, aren't you afraid of getting sick? I said, no, I've got the best immune system in the world, man. I said, my immune system was given to me by God. Why would I trust some ghoul in a white lab coat over God?
Yeah, it's something that has become quite a thing, because I've seen a lot of friends and things with their children to take all their shots and whatever. They're very sickly.
Yes. Yeah. There was another actress. My wife sent me a thing here. I meant to look at it on here because I wasn't really sure who this person was. Let me see where that is. Yeah, here it is. Let me see what it is. Big Boss 13 fame, Shafali Jariwala. She was on some TV show, and there's a thing here showing where she died, cardiac arrest at the age of 42. And then just about a year or so ago, it's right next to another post that says, finally got my first dose. Protect yourself, protect others too. Getting vaccinated is the only way to beat COVID. And I'm like, wow, how many of these do I have to see? How many of these do I have to see? And what's so frustrating about it is that we were stifled from warning anybody. And those
Yeah,
that you
when
did try to warn, they said, oh, no, you're full of shit, blah, blah, blah. Trust the science and all this other. And it's like, oh, man. And now look.
The thing is, we said it's going to take a few years before a lot of those things
Yep,
start taking effect.
yep.
Um, and I think that's also one thing that they were counting, because now they're going to start bringing out new variants and things and blame that.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly what they're going to do. Well, it's like the rabies shot that they give to dogs. That's bullshit. Okay. That is total bullshit. There has never been a case of a dog having rabies.
Well, not in
Never.
my lifetime I've ever seen a dog have
Not in
rabies.
anybody's lifetime. Not in anybody. And you start looking into how they came up with that whole theory and to give these dogs this shot. They ground up the brain of another dog that they made go crazy by confining it, and then it killed the other dog. And it was like, oh yeah, see, that was rabies. You need to vaccinate
Mad
it.
cow disease.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, oh my god, man. So it's like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. You know, that you want to do the best you can for your dogs and everything. My dogs are my kids, you know, and I'm like, nope, no more shots for you guys. Nope, we're not doing that anymore. And it used to be, before they had this regimen of shots you have to give to your dog, dogs would live 15 to 20 years. Now they're lucky to live 10. It's like, no, we're not doing this anymore. And you see people advertise it right off the bat too. They go, you know, I have puppies that are pit bulls and they've had all their shots. And it's like, oh man, why'd you do that? Shit. Let me take care of the shots, and then we're not going to go get no damn shots.
Well, how healthy is your dogs?
My dogs are super healthy. I mean, with the exception of getting old. You know, I've got two dogs here. I got one that's 11, another one that's 10, and they're starting to show signs of having trouble getting around, and they're not as spry as they used to be. But I accommodate for that, and I help them out. You know, I know that there is no shot that they're going to give the dog that's going to help it or make it get young again or anything like that. It's just a fact of life. We all get old and we get trouble moving around. Way I like to think about it, they don't have to be here as long as we do, because they came in, they was already good when they came here.
No, but I mean, how old's your oldest dog now?
11.
And that's an old age. That's very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, he's a big old fella. He's the one you heard growling a minute ago, because the youngest shepherd come up and was like, "Come on, Fobs, let's play." And he's like, "I don't want a dick with you. Get away from me." He's like an old person. Get out of here, you little whippersnapper. Yeah.
I see everybody still moaning with Bev again. I'm glad to see Bev actually conceded his whiteboard is flat. So that's good.
Oh man.
Understanding his whiteboard is a flat three-dimensional object in reality, but
Yep.
represented two-dimensionally.
Yep.
So that's a good thing.
I don't know. Everything in reality has length, width, and depth. Okay. Two-dimensional, that's what you might draw.
But that's only like we try to explain with him like a table. You go and you explain a table two-dimensionally, the tabletop, but it's not physically two-dimensional. You're
No.
just ignoring a dimension, and that's
Well,
how
I
Earth
know.
is as well.
Yeah, you want us, and this is a big thing in engineering too. They drilled it into us. Don't double dimension. Okay, and what that means is if I've already got the radius, I don't need to put a diameter, and I don't need to put a circumference. I've already given the dimension that's necessary for it, and that's the radius. You just don't you just don't double dimension. You don't call it out as one thing here and then call it out again over here. Why? It's just too much shit on the page that you don't need. That's what they like, is a whole bunch of shit on the page that you don't need because it confuses you and they think it looks smart. It doesn't. It's actually dumbass.
Yeah.
Or
No, but I mean, that's what we say. What's really odd, if you look at engineering, if you look at architecture, you look at anything, the base of that whole measurement or anything always requires a stationary plane.
Yeah.
There's no curve spinning space testicle in this equation at all. But
Well,
yet
that's
the
what
people fight for it.
they always say. Well, how do your flat Earth physics work? And I'm like, what the fuck are you? Flat Earth
Flat physics.
physics is physics. Okay, it doesn't matter if I study something. Is it train physics if I'm on a train? Is it called car physics if I'm in a car? I mean, what the hell are you talking about with this flat Earth physics? Physics is
Last
just
time I
physics.
checked, physics is physics.
That's it. I had a guy argue with me about that for about 2 days. He said, well, you don't have any flat Earth physics. And I goes, what is flat Earth physics? I just kept asking him, what is that? How does it differ from, what is globe physics? Let's go there. Show me your globe physics. The hell, man? I don't get these people.
That's quite sad.
But there's some that they just can't get it, and then there's some that they're not actually to discuss anything. They're there to shut the conversation down. Like our friend Wesley. Wesley's there to have a conversation. Wesley's there to laugh like a maniac over nothing. And
I mean, even when he gets shown wrong, he'll still double down, triple down, and think he's right.
Yep, and laugh like a maniac about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what in the hell? That's why I asked him that day. I said, why do you laugh like a maniac all the time? It's like you're acting like something is just the most hilarious, funny thing you ever saw, and everyone that's watching you do it knows that that's an act. So why are you bothering to do it? Do you actually think it's having impact? No.
Mm-hmm.
Would you refuse treatment for your children? Treatment for what? That was Mr. Jingles asking that. Treatment for what? Needing stitches? No, I wouldn't refuse treatment for that. You want to inject a bunch of aluminum and shit into them? No, I don't think we're going to do that. I don't think that's going to happen.
I find it very telling today that a lot of the things that used to be considered quite good and healthy in in the old times with houses and stuff, like homeschooling and not putting poisons into people and eating healthy and all this, is now considered bad.
Well, yeah, because you're not following.
Weird, eh? Don't you find that weird?
Yeah, you're not following the prescribed norm. See, they have a prescribed norm that they've spent a lot of time and effort to instill in you through your 12-year indoctrination program called school. Okay, that's it. The purpose of school is not to make you smart. It is obedience school for people. That's exactly what it is. It's nothing more, nothing less than obedience school for humans. That's all. And they've spent a lot of times engineering you to think a certain way, to believe certain things and disbelieve other things because of this unwarranted affection for academia that they seem to also instill in you. But once you step out of the box and you look at it for what it is, no.
Yeah, but I mean, let's go look at. I think if I can find some of those. Yes. Remember these, Sov?
If you were to follow a busy doctor as he makes his daily round of calls, you'd find yourself having a mighty busy time keeping up with him. Time out for many men of medicine usually means just long enough to enjoy a cigarette. And because they know what a pleasure it is to smoke a mild, good-tasting cigarette, they're particular about the brand they choose. In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Why not change to Camels for the next 30 days and see what a difference it makes in your smoking enjoyment? See how Camels agree with your throat. See how mild and good tasting a cigarette can be.
So I was going.
But I can't believe how expensive it's gotten though.
Oh my God! Yeah, they just put another tax on them too.
Crazy.
They just put another tax on them too, and it's like, wait a second, you're gonna tax? What's the deal? What are you doing? Are you thinking you're gonna make more money off of this? All you're gonna do is encourage bootleg cigarettes. You know,
That's the thing.
profit.
It's like we've got a problem here in South Africa where the people don't want to pay so much for it, so they go and they get the black market cheap rubbish stuff. And that's actually even more bad because it's like just stuffed in a whole bunch of extra junk.
I'm keeping my parasites out. I'm just after the nicotine. The nicotine is it'll keep you from getting parasites. That ain't no shit. I think that's probably why I don't get bit by mosquitoes very often either.
No, there is right. No,
They
there is.
don't bother me.
Now I was thinking of this when you were saying that. Yeah, I think it's this one. This is funny. Remember that?
That's what I do. I saw a post on Facebook that was talking about that. Be careful of the gummy bears because there was certain stores that was selling them that they had THC gummy bears and shit. Kids were getting them. That's bullshit. It didn't happen. There was no store selling it. But anyway, I commented on there. I says, give me the address of the store immediately. I will go take care of all of it and destroy every bit of it through consumption, for safety and stuff, I'm like, that's such bullshit. They put stories like that, like, oh yeah, we're gonna be careful. They're giving away weed gummy bears at Halloween and shit. I'm like, what house? Where do I go? Who's doing that? Nobody's gonna do that. You're not gonna waste giving away your weed gummies to some kid at random that you're never gonna ever. Even if you wanted to see what it was like if a kid was high, you would never see it because you don't know the kid. He's wearing a mask. You just dumped it in some random kid's bag and you don't have the gummies anymore. That just doesn't make any sense to me. That's like they say, oh yeah, they go to schoolyards to sell drugs. And I'm like, yeah, because that's the big profit margin is kids. They always have such amounts of money and shit like that. That's a good profit base right there. Come on. It don't make any sense at all. They're going to target kids. Yeah, because what? They're milk money. That's better than the guy who's got a 40-hour-a-week job, it could buy from you and is going to be a steady source of buying your product. No, we're going to randomly ask little kids if they want drugs. That's the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life.
Crazy. Yeah. See, this is the other one. This was from the BBC report. This was the live one, apparently.
Burning behind me is 8.5 tons of heroin, opium, hashish, and other narcotics. Come on then, let's go. Okay, seriously. Burning behind me. Go. Quick. Well, we just need one more.
I wonder how he explains this to his wife after that he's now addicted all of a sudden.
Behind me is 8.5 tons of heroin, opium, hashish, and other narcotics. Burning behind me.
I mean, really.
Good gravy. I love it. So this is a spook. Yeah, I don't know. Is it a spook? Is that second one? Was that real?
The second one apparently was on BBC.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
The first one was like a parody, like
it was a spoof. Yeah, they were making fun of it, but the second one was apparently on BBC.
It's wild, man. That's what That's. I mean, that's the thing is that they've put so much effort into combating people using marijuana for so many years, and I lived under that cloak, for many, many years. And my friend Johnny here, he can attest to that too. So did he. Where you had to be secret and go off into hiding, and everything was kind of like underground when it came to that shit. Now it's just people are out there. I mean, the sheriff was in the same store with me when I bought a new bong pipe and rolling papers. And I stood outside holding this bong, the one that I use right here. Had just bought it, and I was holding it in my arm, cradled like this and shit. And I'm standing out in the parking lot talking to the sheriff of the county and shit. And I'm like, this dude would have had me in the back of his car 10 years ago. This guy would have had me in the back of his car 10 years ago. I'd be going off to the Page County Jail right away. And now here he is just having a conversation with me. He doesn't even care. I got a marijuana plant growing out in my backyard right now. I live right next door to a cop. He don't care. Nobody does. It's no more.
Well, I remember when we were studying art, and we had like this auditorium, and on the roof they would grow the weed plants on the roof.
There you go. Well, my dad one time, he had saved the seed, because back in the day, you could only, all you got really was what we used to call it Mexican brickweed. Yeah. And it was really compressed, and you could tell where it had been compressed, and it was like you had to break part of it off and then break it up. And there was usually a bunch of seeds in it. And so my dad, he saved up all these seeds over a long period of time, and he had this freezer bag that was about that far full, like that, full of just seeds. And he put them out in the bird feeder. Well, birds don't always digest all the seeds that they eat.
No, that's why it needs specific seeds.
A couple weeks later, man, it was not even on the news. People are trying to find out, why are there all these marijuana plants growing everywhere? People are finding them in their garden, growing out of their gutters of their house. There was weed plants growing every fucking place because my dad fed the birds all those pot seeds. It was hilarious. They even did a little news story about it. They couldn't figure out why there was marijuana plants growing all over the place. Hell, that was back in the 70s, man. Really? Yeah. People were really freaking out about it then, you know. Some old guy, he's like, my grandmother, and this is what blew me away. My grandmother, we had a plant growing right outside our back door. My older brother had it growing right outside our back door. And we had a knock at the door, and I go there, and there's my grandma standing out there, and she's got the plant bent over, looking at it and smelling it, and she says, "You know, that right there is marijuana. Now, what you'll want to do is about October, you'll want to cut that down and wrap it in burlap and hang it in the attic where it's dried." And I'm sitting there going, how does my grandma know how to cultivate weed? What the hell?
I remember this. Elderly couple called it a 400K worth of a Christmas present. I think it was an 80-year-old woman and man. Yeah, 80-year-old man and a 70-year-old woman were arrested in Nebraska for carrying over 60 pounds of marijuana.
Oh, hell.
In their truck.
Only 60? I've been able to fit 110 in my.
But this isn't the one I was looking for. There was another one where she was growing it in her house.
Did she get in trouble for it?
Yeah. I think it was this one. I can't remember. But it was a whole house full. No, I don't think it's this one.
She had a whole grow up going on.
So literally a whole house, if I can just find the right one, a whole house was just filled with marijuana trees.
And everybody just loved grandma's cookies, I bet.
No wonder why they like grandma so much.
Yeah, man. I don't know if you've ever seen, there was a TV show called Taxi.
Oh, yeah.
And they had the little foreign guy on there named Ladka. He was the mechanic in the shop. Nobody could ever figure out what country he was actually from. But anyway, his mom had been sending him these cookies, and he was passing them out at the garage, and everybody loved them and shit. Next thing you know, everybody's working double shifts and shit and making all kinds of money, and they're just loving these cookies. And finally they figure out, they're like, what's in these cookies? What is it? And when they pinned it down on the ingredients, one of it was coca leaves. One of the ingredients in the cookies was coca leaves, where they get cocaine from. So these guys were wired out on these cookies, working double shifts and shit, and hooked on the cookies. They come back to the garage. They say, "No, I just come back for some more of those cookies, and then I'm going back out."
Yeah, see, this is how a house looked like there.
Oh,
full
yeah.
Just house, just full of nothing else, and just weed plants.
Now that's how my garage in California looked. Now see, those are clones. Now see, look at there, those are clones. Now here's how I can tell you. You see, there's no taproot. There's no single straight root that comes down from the stalk straight down. A plant grown from seed will have that. A clone doesn't. It just fuzzes out. So that's what they've done. So technically, she was only growing one or two plants. The rest of those were just extensions of the other plant.
So she started one or two and then just kept on planting them out.
We had like 4 different plants, 4 to 5 different plants at one time in any given time, that we would keep them in the vegetative state. We'd keep the light going for 18 hours and then only dark for 6. And then because that's how they ripen. It's a photo period. When the days start getting shorter, then it goes into a flower sequence, and it simulates the fall. Also, it absorbs more of the red spectrum of the light, being as that the sun is further away in the fall than it is in the summer. And I forgot where I was going with that. Shit.
You put the kit on from all.
Oh yeah, but they're a photo period. Anyway, we'd have those 5 plants. Those were mothers. We called those mothers. And then we'd go to make a new batch of clones. And by the time we were done cutting clones off of that mother, and then, you know, cutting them right, putting them in rooting compound, stick them in a little peat pod, and then under the cloning light, you have all these little tiny branches. That mother plant would look like Charlie Brown's Christmas tree. And within about a month or so, that thing would be all bushed back out again, and you'd be ready for more clones off of it. So you have
They go quite quickly. They
yeah.
actually grow quite quickly.
If they've got the right nutrients, you know, and in the flowering period, you want a nitrogen high content to your soil. So you just keep that up as you go. And then we would take them right from clone. Once they would totally root out, the plant would be about that tall. And then we put about 50 of them on a table. We had these tables we made that were on wheels. And you put about 50 of them in these little pots and then put them right into a flower phase. And you got like this huge bud off of each one of those little clones, each one of them in just a few weeks. And then we'd harvest that and we'd be ready to bring in another set of them and put in there. We had sides up on it so that instead of having to just water everything, we just pour the fertilizer and water mix right into the table. And it would spread all the way across the table, you know, and be held up inside with the retaining walls on the side. And it would flow and get into all the pots. And it would go from the bottom up instead of going from the top down and washing the soil away. We had quite a thing. At one time, I got a picture. I'll have to find it. We had those Home Depot 5-gallon buckets, those plastic buckets. I had like probably 100 or more of those things in my house, all full of cut buds, with dates on them, so that we'd know when they were ready for trim and whatnot.
Because I also see like people use like tire tractors, the tractors from the tires, and they kind of plant them in there as well.
Yeah. We used these.
Works quite well.
Now that was just our indoor thing. For our outdoor grow, we had these. They were these big, huge sacks. They were like a great big, huge sack, and you fill it with all the soil fertilizer, and then it just sets out there, and then you don't have it tearing up the whole yard. The roots stay within that sack, and then when it comes time, you compost all that.
I'm just going to quickly give my wife a quick seconds. Hey,
Who did that come up? Who is that just come up? I don't see anybody in that window. You there? Who you there? Who we got out here in the chat going on? The oldest known synthetic medicine, bizarre. Someone should mention Atlantis. How his uncle once took him there in a steampunk submarine when married. What the fuck are you talking about, Mr. Groovy House? I've never been to Atlantis. What are you talking about? Crazy people going on. Mr. Cheswick, Mr. Groovy House, any sign of them bending 1,000-mile spinning oceans yet? You guys just fucking piss on each other in here, don't you? What are you guys even talking about over here, man? Crazy. Make sure the pH of the water is good. Some good newts, good soil, good ventilation and light. You can't go wrong. Yeah, it's even what you do. If you got too high or low a pH of the water, that's important too. I just happen to have just the right pH in my tap water right here. What comes right out of the hose. And we had a well when I was in California. Who's in that window down below us? I don't know who the hell that is. You're obsessed with the shape of the earth. No one's mentioned it.
Sorry, I'm back. Okay. What did I miss?
Nothing. I'm just trying to figure out what the hell these people in the chat are talking about, man.
The same usual things. My whiteboard is flat. Okay.
Yeah, that's a picture of gravity, Dick Wayne. That's exactly right. That was confirmed.
Don't you just love, though, Solve, how that sun's rays are divergent?
Yeah.
Not parallel?
Well, what I think is interesting is that the word ray actually comes from the word radiate, which comes from the word radius, which would mean in a circle. That
can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Hello.
Yeah, we hear you, man. Oh, we had a brief.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we hear you, man. I don't think he can hear us. I think that's the problem.
Ah,
Oh no, Wesley's here.
I guess a bit delayed for me. Can you?
What's the matter?
He's saying it's delayed for him.
Oh,
You see,
Yeah, it's a bit of a
he's
delay.
relying on
Jeez.
satellite
Hang
for
on.
his internet.
satellites. Starlink. No possible way. You start working out the problems with that, and there again, that's another thing that was brought into the existence by a science fiction author. The whole idea of satellites, wasn't that Arthur C. Clarke? I think it was. Just perpetually falling, but it's.
I still want to know how it costs so much money to make a damn satellite, though.
Well, who are they usually making them for? It's usually the government.
Mm-hmm.
So and we're talking about people that pay, $150 for a fucking toilet seat,
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
A typical weather satellite carries a price tag of $290 million. That's just a normal, ordinary weather satellite. I know some of them cost up to $1 billion. And then they look like like we saw those the chicken coop satellite.
No, it's still a very long delay. When I speak, you respond, but it's way after I speak.
I think it's your internet, man.
I'm gonna have to get off here in a minute.
Well, we're ending the show anyway in like 15 minutes. So
I can hang 15 minutes.
Awesome. Let's go look at some how satellites look. How's that? And then tell me if they look real to you.
Well, most of those things, have you seen those ones that come down on those balloons?
Uh-huh.
They look exactly like what they show in these pictures. The shit that's coming off these balloons look exactly like that, man.
But I mean, look how real that is. You can't look at that and tell me that's fake. Come on.
Yeah, it looks pretty real. Well, that's how you know it's real, is because it looks so fake.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, that's real. Come on, guys. I mean, it's so real they forgot to put in the proper shading textures.
Oh, magic refrigerator flying around. Now I can buy those being tethered on high altitude balloons. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And from that vantage point, you can have, they've got some pretty high powered cameras and shit like that they could actually make it look at a lot of different areas from one location, using that kind of technology merely by using a balloon and not having to rely on, getting it up into space and all that other shit that's not really happening anyway. That's just a show.
I mean, how do we know they're also not able to, they maybe not telling us something, that they got a technology that they are able to tether off of the firmament?
That's possible too.
I mean, it's very possible that they figured out how to, kind of ski along the firmament. And that's how they have like the ISS up there.
Yeah, maybe. But if you think about it, you could actually just fool people by having routine flights going over. You don't really know the size, distance, and speed of the object. You're told the size, distance, and speed. But if I reduce that to a quarter of what I told you in all aspects, speed, size, and distance, you're none the wiser.
Well, that's the thing, because all people work on here really is the angular size.
Yep.
So what you can do is you can have something that's smaller and at a lower altitude that gives the same angular size as something that would be higher and larger.
Yep. It's easy to do that when you don't have anything for a reference frame too.
Mm-hmm. And that's also the funny thing is because you get like Vincent Red Rhetoric and Astronomy Live where they use the moon as reference, and their whole assumption is the moon is 285,000 miles away.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you can't win.
Well, it's like one of the explanations into the calculating the distance to the sun was, it just kind of just said it as though it were a fact. And since Venus is approximately the same size as Earth, and it's like, wait a minute, how the hell do you know that in the first place? Because it relies on the orbit of Venus, and it's like, wait a second, wouldn't you have to know how far Venus was from the sun in the first place in order to use it as a reference to figure out how far it is from the Earth?
But wouldn't the sun have to be a different speed?
Well, the sun's not moving. The object, I guess, the orbit of Venus would be slower. I don't know how many.
No, the sun, as it rotates around the flat Earth, it would have to be faster than it rotates around the globe.
Well, its actual land speed would probably it's going to be more. Yeah.
How much more?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't bothered to figure it out, but it's the same. How much faster is the outside track of a 33 and a third RPM LP as opposed to the inner track?
Yeah, I mean, if
same thing. Music doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, if you had a 45 RPM record and a 33 RPM record, then the circumference would be different, wouldn't it?
Yep, it keeps getting different as you go inward with the stylus too.
And
all the time, but the music always stays the same.
But the benefit of a turntable is you have a little switch that you can switch the speed.
Yes.
Yeah,
but
so
it still doesn't change the fact whether you're at 33 and the third RPMs, 45 RPMs, or 78 RPMs. The fact of the matter is the outside of that is traveling faster than the inside.
You know that sound?
Wait. What?
When you're playing a record at the wrong speed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like chipmunks or whatnot. Yeah.
Their evolutions, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so on the flat Earth, the circumference at the equator is much bigger than the circumference of the equator on the globe. So the speed of the sun would have to be
it's not.
faster.
We went through this last time with you and Bev. It's not. It's the same.
Why so?
Because
it's not a spot on a ball. It's merely the midway point between the two tropics, which is the limit that the sun travels back and forth north and south.
Yeah, but we went over the 1 degree, 69 miles, 9069, 6,210 already.
We went through this already. You guys, they try to equate. They don't understand the difference between a sphere and a plane circle. This is their issue. So they say, oh, look, your circumference comes up to double. Not understanding. No, it's exactly the same. You guys are trying to put spherical
distances.
You're trying to
calculate it off the radius.
You're trying to put spherical distances onto a plane.
I'm going to say this 2 times, or for the second time and for the last time. Okay, the equator, whether it's on a ball or whether it's on a level surface, is going to be a circle, and they're the same fucking size. Okay?
Yeah, but the radius.
No, it doesn't matter. Radius, diameter, and circumference are all the same size of the equator. So there's issue. There's no issue.
Look,
you realize that there is no issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you had a different size turtle, if you had a different size turtle shell on your back, like now, then you, being the center of the turtle shell, would be further away from the edge or closer to the edge of your turtle shell.
All going to depend on whether you feel more like you do now than when you first said that. What?
Well, you know the longitudes.
Yes.
On the flat Earth.
Yes, the
meridian. They radiate out from the North Pole, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so the distance, the circumference, if you like, the distance between them gets greater as the further you move south.
Yes.
All right, so the circumference of that rotation gets bigger, correct?
Yes.
So how fast does the sun have to travel fast? How much faster does it travel the further it goes south?
Well, I don't know.
To
What do you
cover
mean? How fast
cover the
does it have to
ground.
travel? What
Huh?
do you mean?
Well, if the
Are you
circumference
looking
is
for an
bigger and the sun
actual? Are
is,
you looking for an actual calculated speed?
well, somebody must know. What some must be some
Well, then go
mathematician.
ask somebody that knows. I'm only
Well, I
saying
thought
that
you
yes,
knew.
it does. Shh,
You don't know.
it does go faster.
How?
It has
How much
to
faster?
go fast. I don't know. It goes faster. If you want to figure it out, figure it out. I don't fucking care how much faster. It does go faster. It has to.
Well,
So I
how
think the problem. So I think the problem that these guys have is they have issues with it, and they automatically think that it bothers us.
Well, I thought you
Well,
might be able to explain it. You know, you seem to
I
know
just
and
did.
explain
I just
most
did
things.
explain it.
So,
You're looking for an exact number. I don't have an exact number for you. Okay?
well, we have an exact
Fact of
number
the
for the
no, we don't
circumference
have
of
to
the
have an
equator.
exact number at all.
Well,
All we have to do is
6,210-ish.
what's that?
That's the circumference of the equator on flat Earth.
It's no. What is it on the globe?
3,959.
Radius or diameter?
The radius.
The radius.
And
Well,
the
we
radius
have
on the flat Earth is 6,210. We went over it the
to the
other day.
equator. Wait a second. To the equator.
From the North Pole to the equator.
Okay, no, we have the exact same distance.
Well, 3,959 isn't 6,210. We went over
We
that.
got
That's
the
ridiculous.
same distance. The equator is the same size on the globe and the flat Earth. Sorry, babe.
What's the radius of the globe?
Well, your radius is assumed
Not mine.
to be
Not mine. It's not mine.
It's assumed to be the equator.
Okay, let me
We
quickly
don't
show
see
this.
a radius
What's
of
it?
a globe. We don't observe a globe, so we're not counting a globe.
There we go. There we go, Alderbay. It's on screen for you.
Well, go and explain that then. You see that? You see that in the middle where the green dotted line is?
That's Polaris.
That's the North Pole, or you're
Yes.
beneath the GP of the North Pole, if it
Yes.
was at 90 even. But anyway, you're there, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And the distance to the equator is where that white arc meets the yellow line.
5,400 nautical miles, yes.
Correct?
5,400 nautical miles,
Right,
yes.
so that's a radius, correct?
Just like on the
Right,
globe.
and that is 6,210 miles, correct?
That's the radius of the equator.
It's the equator.
It's the radius of the flat Earth.
You
They're
think
flat
the
Earth
equator
miles.
is shut up. You think the equator is the radius of the entire Earth. You're wrong.
No.
Yes.
No, the radius of the flat Earth.
Okay, well, what does it say on screen now, Alda?
Yes, but the difference is you're trying to compare.
What does it say on screen right now, Alderbay? We went through this last time.
This is on the globe.
And what's the distance?
The distance is from the equator to the North Pole is approximately 10,000 kilometers, thanks to the Frenchman, 6,215 miles.
And what
The
does it
distance
say
is
on the
also,
flat
hang on, can we go
What does
back?
it say on
Can
the
we go
flat Earth?
back? Can we go
And
back?
what does it say on the
Can we-
flat Earth? What does it say on the
Yes,
flat
but
Earth?
right, but the distance.
Yes, but what?
Well,
Let me
what
do
you
it
just
this way. I'm
asked
gonna
me.
I'm gonna
Shush,
hide out
just
so
give me a
everybody can
chance to
see.
answer then, and then you'll get
What
there.
does it say? Yeah.
I don't care what it says. You can't conflate the two.
What do you mean you can't conflate the two? You
Because
think
the
the
first-
equator. You think the equator is
You
the
don't know what I
limit
think
of
because you
the
don't even know what the fucking answer is. How do you know what I think?
What answer to what? You haven't asked anything that makes any fucking sense.
If Flatsoid was honest, he'd go back to the previous slide. Okay, the distance is also the same from the equator to the South Pole.
Okay.
All right.
Weird.
Now that is an arc distance. It's around the outside. That's not a radius.
What?
You know what a radius is? What's the radius?
Yeah, but you see, you're assuming.
No, not what, Sov. Don't act dumb. You could try and act as though you're
If you
smart.
stand
You know
on the
what a radius
equator,
is.
if you
What's a
stand on the
radius?
equator, Alderbay, and you measure out to the North Pole, is that 5,400 nautical miles?
On the flat Earth, apparently, yes.
No, in reality as well.
In reality, it doesn't matter either way. That's the distance.
Globe
babe.
and flat Earth is actually the same distance to the equator. Numbnuts.
Yeah, but that's not a radius.
Not yeah, that's not a radius. 5,400 nautical miles is the exact measurement from Polaris to the equator, flat Earth or globe. Exactly the same measurement. I told you this to you and Bev last time.
Yes, but if you
yes,
if that was
yes, but not
no,
yes,
listen.
but that is what's measured.
You're not very honest.
No, I'm very honest.
No,
I'm
you're
pointing
not.
out
No,
to
you're
be
not. You
a
talk
troll.
over everybody. You think you're fucking
You're a
right all the
troll
time,
because you
and you haven't
don't
got a clue.
accept
I'm
that it's
not
the
a
same
troll.
distance.
It's just that you don't
Yes,
want to
it's
hear it.
5,400 nautical miles or not, Elderbear?
It's an arc distance. It's not a radius.
Is it 5,400 nautical miles?
It's an arc. It's not.
Is
It
it
doesn't matter. What's the
5,400
fucking
nautical
distance?
miles?
Is it the same or not, dude?
Listen, how do you get the circumference?
Don't ask a question. Don't answer a question with a question.
All right, Dad. I've told you before.
Okay.
I'm not your Sov. I'm not your son.
Listen to me. Listen to me, you little snippy bitch.
No. Don't point your finger at me. I'm not your son.
I don't give a fuck who you are. Okay.
All right. Well, I do give a fuck.
Well, you
so
would
don't do
have
what.
to
Don't
be, you would have
don't
to
even
because
try.
you're the only one.
Don't even try
it. The matter is this: the distance between the North Pole and the equator are both exactly the same on your fictional globe and on the true Earth.
Exactly. What's
the
the circumference?
exact same distance. Shush. They're the exact same distance, whether you want to call it an arc distance or not.
Don't hit me, Dad.
If you go all
you scare
around,
me when you point your finger and shout, Dad.
And this is why you don't know shit. Because your ego gets in the fucking way.
No. It's not ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. So what's the circumference of the globe?
We don't measure circumferences.
At the equator.
We measure distances to the North Pole.
I'm asking you a question, not what you make up in your mind.
Read quickly what's on screen, yeah?
No. What's the circumference
of
the globe at the equator?
Don't tell me no.
Take that radius.
I just told you no.
And then
I'm going to point my finger now.
Pi r square with that radius that you've been given. Okay.
Yes. What's the radius?
The circumference.
What's the radius?
Circumference of
We
have already been over that.
No, you haven't.
Yes,
you're just trying to bullshit for the audience.
What's the radius? What's the radius to the equator?
What radius to the equator?
To the equator. What's the radius of the equator? The equator is a circle. Do you agree that the equator is a circle?
That's what I'm told. Yes.
Okay, so the equator is a circle.
Yeah.
All right. So we've established that. Does a circle have a radius?
Yes.
Okay, so the radius of that times pi, you square it and then go by pi. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to figure your circumference. All you're doing is reiterating what you already know by the radius.
Yeah. Well, on the globe.
Yeah.
Shut up now. You just on the globe, the radius is stated by you mostly 3959.
Okay.
And that gives you a circumference of 24,900 nod.
Okay.
Now, on the flat Earth, from the North Pole to the equator,
is the same distance.
Same distance.
No.
Yes.
No, it's not, is
same
it?
Distance.
Yes.
How can it be?
There we go.
It's 90 times 69 miles. That's 6,210 miles.
Look, 5,400 nautical miles. This is based on your globe, correct?
I haven't got a globe. 5,400 nautical miles is based on the arc distance.
Wait. We're going to see who's honest now. What is the shape of your Earth you believe in?
I have no idea.
Then you're not honest. Thank you very much.
Why is that not honest? What do you mean?
What's the radius for your non-existent shape?
Well, if I have a non-existent shape, I have a non-existence radius, don't I?
Then what are you arguing about?
Well, I'm trying to work out what the hell you're going on about.
What do you mean? You have a circle.
You're sitting there. You just sat there. You sat there and you preached to the audience about the education system and the programming and the conditioning, and you're doing exactly the same thing.
How do you figure?
Well, because you're trying to conflate 6210 to be equal to 3959.
What are you going statute miles to nautical miles? What are you doing?
No, that wasn't. They were both statute miles. They were both statute miles, as you well know, Sov. Roll up another fat one and try and work it out.
You need to fucking work it out, dude. You're the only one that's confused.
Well, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, okay.
So
here's your answer. Here's your answer to your question.
Can you hear that they're saying that the radius of the globe is 3959? Yet the radius on the flat
Right.
Earth is 6210. Now, I think
No,
they're
where do you
different.
get that? Where do you
But
get
they
that?
say they derive the same circumference value from both of those differing radius values. How
Okay,
does that work?
I'm gonna ask you
Where do
again.
you
I'm gonna
get
ask you
the
again. What
difference?
is this number where I'm circling right here, Alderbear?
What number? Can't see a circle.
5,400 nautical miles from
Yeah,
Polaris
that's your flat Earth.
to
Your
the
flat Earth
equator.
measurement. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now let's go to what it says. What does it say here? What's this number here?
Doesn't matter what it says. That's not a radius. They're not equivalent.
Yes, it is.
It is a radius.
No, it's
Moron.
not.
Every
No, it's
point,
not, Sov. All
of
right,
that
mate. Now
observation
listen
is in
here,
a
mate.
circle. Every
Listen here, mate.
every point
When
of
you
that
have a
observation is in a
circumference, like,
circle. What the
when you
fuck?
have a circumference, mate, that's equal on both models, they can only be derived by having the same fucking radius, mate. You get me?
It is the same radius.
Well, on one you got 5,400 nautical miles, 6,210 statute miles,
Okay.
and on the globe you got 3,959, mate. Sorry.
This guy's I don't know how should I place this? A moron?
How do you listen? How do you derive the circumference
Let me put this on. Let
of
me
a
do it this way.
circle or a?
What is on screen right now?
It's very fuzzy, pretty pixelated.
Is that a circle, the equator?
Looks pretty oval from here.
It's a circle, correct?
Well, it looks oval, but I get,
It's a circle.
Trying to say it's a circle.
It's literally a circle. Is that equator? Is that radius from the equator?
I don't know. He's dumb as a fucking post.
To the center.
Where is the radius?
Is that who's talking to you, Sov? Who he's he's fucking mad.
The guy that's saying the Sov is calling you a moron, just like we are.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's because he grew up with Sov.
No.
Sov grew up with all his lot.
No, he didn't.
I've
only known him
Sov grew up with his lot that made him what he is. We know that.
No, it's because he calls you a moron like we call you a moron because you don't understand that a circle is a circle.
Yes, a circle's a circle. Now what?
Yeah.
And it has a
Done.
radius.
So
it has a radius.
The radius in a circle is the same as the radius in a circle, correct?
A radius in a circle is the same as a radius in a circle.
Yes, well done.
Well, you don't. Well, you said it. I'm just repeating what you said. So don't go well done.
The globe has a circle radius, just like the flat Earth has a circle radius.
All right, go on.
Same distance.
Where? Which are the same distance?
5,400 nautical miles from Polaris to the equator. On the globe and on flat Earth.
What things on that diagram are you saying are the same? A and B. What are you saying is the same? You got A, that's the flat Earth. You got
that's
B.
The globe. I got the globe on. It's the WGS4 on screen. It's a globe.
Yeah, listen. That's how you always depict it. That's how you always depict flat Earth as a sphere, but with an elliptical plane cut through the middle. You all do that. You all do that, you flat earthers. You always represent a sphere, and Oakley says that's the center of hell. Then he's in the center of hell measuring flat Earth. He's mad.
What is the Oakley got to do?
You see A. That depicts the elliptical plane that the flat Earth is said to be.
Yeah.
Right. A
That's the globe.
is a
I
radius.
you got the globe on screen, is it not?
Yes. All right. Okay. Sit down. The red line A goes from the center to the equator. Now that is a flat Earth radius.
Everything's
right? And B is a globe radius because it goes from the center of the globe to the outer edge from the inside.
It's the same fucking size.
On your diagram,
B and A are the same size.
Oh, Saab, you think you're really special. Well, B on the globe is 3959 and A on the flat Earth is 6210. So they can't be the same size. Yeah, you can shake your head, man.
Do we measure 5,400?
You are shocking.
Do we measure 5,400 nautical miles away from Polaris to the equator or not?
Well, that's what. Yes. What you claim that all the time. That's why I'm asking. How could it be the same?
Is the same distance measured on your globe?
I haven't got a globe.
Is the same measured on a globe, the one you're fighting for?
Not a radius, no.
So nobody measures 5,400 nautical miles away to Polaris from the equator on a
not
globe.
as a radius, no.
For the 10th time, you don't measure a radius, you calculate a radius, okay? So do you measure 5,400 nautical miles from Polaris to the equator or not?
On the flat Earth?
In reality.
In reality, do you know what reality is?
Yes.
So it's 6,210 miles
It's
to the equator.
5,400. You measured 5,400 nautical miles from Polaris.
And what's the circumference value? Okay, what's the circumference value?
I don't care about the circumference value. The measured fact is exactly the same.
Well, why don't you?
You live on a
care
globe.
about that?
You live on a globe, Aldebair.
No, I'm asking. You're talking about the flat Earth.
You live on a globe, Aldebair.
Flat side. You
live on the flat Earth, Aldebair.
Do you live on the flat Earth flat side? Do you live on the flat Earth flat side? Do you live on the flat side? No.
I don't live on a flat. There's no such thing as live on a flat.
You gave me the measurements
of
flat Earth. You said it's 5,004. This is the last time I'm telling you, or you're going to be kicked off for trolling. Do you live on a globe or not? No.
Do you live on a flat Earth or not?
I'll catch you.
No.
What do you live on? Because if you can't answer me what you live on, you're getting kicked.
Well, I live on the Earth. On the ground.
Okay, Aldebair's kicked. He is no longer available here for trolling. It's very simple, guys. The measured distance is the same on the globe Earth as it is on the flat Earth. 5,400 nautical miles. That's it. Anyway, so we wanted to end 10 minutes ago.
I don't know, man. That dude is he's about a burnt cookie, man. I don't know what he's.
Think about his logic, though. I don't live on a globe, but I'm going to fight for a globe.
Well, what's the circumference? And it's sort of like that's consequential of the radius. What the fuck? Who cares?
See, the thing is, because the globe works on, that's what I said, it's a spherical model, and he's ignoring the circumference is based on the equator's radius, the exact same as a flat Earth. But now he's trying to say, no, we have to look at the radius because it's a spheroid, not a perfect sphere. It's 3959. The guy's literally straw manning. He's an idiot.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
So yeah, guys, remember, all the Bev tards out there don't live on anything because they don't really know what they live on.
No, I think they're just here to be stupid. I really do. I really do.
I don't exactly. Look at this. Do you live on
it's one thing you want to come in and start asking a question. But these adversarial fucks, they got to go. They just got to go. It's like, what do you think you're going to convince me that the Earth's a globe? Is that what you think? You think that you're going to convince me of that? I'm sorry, that's not happening. It hasn't been done so far. So it's sort of like, oh, come on, believe that the magician really cut that girl in half. And it's like, no, I saw how the trick was done, man. She pulled her legs up in there. There's fake legs out. Come on, quit it. No, come on, really, it's real. Look, watch, and then they watch it like you're showing you the same bullshit that you've already been shown, and you've already gone, no, that's no good. And they expect like it's going to work at some point in time. See, that's the whole thing. They got that hopeful thing, and their little messiah for that was this whole FTE thing. Or TFE, where oh, look, this flat earther is now a glober and shit. And it's like, come on, the dude's even saying the moon landing's real now.
Yep, and we called it. We said he's going to do it eventually.
Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you see, the thing is with this whole circumference thing that they're trying to do, they don't get that circumference of 3959 has been shown false through actual observed reality. Now they're trying to base that as reality and everything else against that not reality. Yeah. It's like, what's wrong with you people? And the sad thing is they don't even believe it's a globe according to them.
No. Well, that was what he was saying. You see, it's because now it's like it's just another tactic to reversal of the burden of proof.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's all that was just another tactic along those same lines. It's like, look, you're the one with the positive claim. You need to prove your bullshit. I don't observe any of the nonsense that you preach. You know? And besides that, again, the sun has absolutely no fucking bearing on what you're standing on. None. Okay, that's just stop it with that. The earth is flat. Well, look at the sky. Well, we're not talking about the sky, are we? We're talking about the terra firma, the ground, the earth, the bodies of water that encompass most of the earth. Let's talk about that. Stop talking about the freaking sky all the time. You know, there's an illusion taking place above you. You look up, you have the illusion of depth, because you see these stars and they're different brightnesses and different sizes. But did you ever notice that when you focus in on one of them, you're focused in on all of them? Show me someplace else you can do that. It just doesn't happen. So you're focused in on them, on one, you're focused in on all of them. You don't have to readjust for anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they're right there. They're all at the same distance away. You're not looking off into infinity. That's an optical illusion. You're looking at the ceiling. And it just makes you think 3D.
Yeah, it's quite sad. Anyway.
So I love it. Somebody will say, well, I've never seen your dome. I've never seen your firmament. I say, yeah, you have. You see it all the time. What do you think?
It's right behind you, Solve.
Yeah, well, what do you think you're looking at?
Gravity.
Yeah, right. It's like when you look up at nighttime, what do you think you're looking at? And why is there that this blue is only ever around where the sun is? That blue is only ever around where the sun is. You don't see that in the other areas of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah. You know what I would like? You know, I'd like Aldebaran them to prove. You know what I'd like Aldebaran them to prove to us? That the radius is 3965, as the globe says it to be. Instead of just assert it's that.
Yeah, I don't know the exact size of anything. You know, unless I've measured it myself, I can give you what somebody's told me about anything. If you really look into the amount of what you truly know, as opposed to what you've been told, you'll find out that you don't know very much.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and that's what starts to scare you, because like I was saying earlier when you were talking about with the history, I was like, man, they've covered up a lot of history. They've hidden history. They've added shit to history that wasn't there. They've uncovered evidence that some of these popes that didn't even really exist, that this just was inserted into a timeline and they weren't even real people. All kinds of crazy stuff going on that we can only go by what we're told. But then when we find out, it's like, well, for some reason, and it usually seems to be nefarious, they've hidden a lot of things from me. Why? And the same people that's giving me the history are the same people that are hiding things from history. So, you know, then you get the whole idea that they're just telling me a song that I want to hear. You know, they're not really giving me the true history of what anything is.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, outside of your own lifetime, what do you really know to be true?
Yeah. I think a lot of everything today is just based on assumption and have faith.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Today, practically everything is just faith-based.
A belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Life being a belief system. And it's like, man, don't let other people dictate your reality. That's what I think is key. Stop just going with the flow. You know, it might be comfortable, but it's in the end, it leads to a bad place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we should end here, because you should have ended 15 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
But I appreciate appreciate you coming on, man.
Right on, bro.
A nice little chill chat.
Hell yeah.
When is your channel coming back up?
Oh, I think in about another week. But we've been doing shows over on my backup channel.
Yeah. I saw you were live on the other channel.
So we're on Sob's place. If let me put the link. If I got it someplace here.
I just want to say thank you, Zay Khan, for his super chat for 5 Australians. He says, I think it was just a misunderstanding. In the real world, it measures roughly the same, but that means the models have different scaled measurements. Thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Yes, that's exactly my point. He is trying to place spheroidal belief systems of a radius onto the flat Earth. Remember, the flat Earth circle is a perfect circle.
Right.
The globe is not a perfect sphere. It's an oblate spheroid.
Yeah.
So it has a different radius value around the poles and the equator, hence why the circumference is different. So they're straw manning the flat Earth because the flat Earth will make a perfect sphere if you had to take it into 3D. But the flat Earth is not a sphere. So they're straw manning the flat Earth and basing it off of the assumption that 3959 is the actual real true radius, which hasn't been shown to be true. It's actually been debunked through observation.
Right.
The fact we're trying to say is the 5,400 nautical mile is an actual measurement you can take from Polaris to the equator, flat Earth and on the globe. It's exactly the same. They're using a straw man now by trying to confuse people by saying, oh, look, the radiuses don't fit. Yeah, they won't. The one's a spheroid, the other one's a flat plane.
Right. They're both circles. I don't think he understands that it's whether you take a hula hoop and wrap it around a freaking basketball or drop it on the ground, it's still the same circle. It doesn't matter.
And that's the thing. If you had to take that spheroid and only measure the circumference of only the equator, it'd be exactly the same as the flat Earth.
Exactly.
The only reason it's different is because he's taking the 3-dimensional radius. He's not taking the 2-dimensional radius.
And it's not like the equator's a latitude either. It's the midway point of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
It's the midway point of the sun. It's part of a solar observation. So that's another reason we get this discrepancy shit as to what the size of it is, because they want to go by true measurement and then position of the sun. And I think that trying to actually pinpoint the position of the sun from a terrestrial standpoint is like a fool's errand, because there is a case where your refraction and atmospheric
Refracted gravillax.
Yeah, I mean, shit like that does come into play. I can't find it now, but I had a really great video from the cockpit of a jet, and it takes off, and then as it gets higher, you see it, and it's sped up, and he goes up real fast, and he goes up, and then he gets up above a certain layer of the atmosphere, kind of like where the density changed because of moisture or whatever, and boom, you see the sun switch size and position just like automatically as soon as he comes up into that area. So it's like it moved by like a degree or so from where it was actually at, and the size of it got smaller because he was actually seeing it through all that moisture, and then as he came out of the moisture, it got down to a truer size of the thing. And that's another thing. You got atmospheric lensing. There's all kinds of shit. And I think that's probably one of the reasons. And these guys probably did try to put an honest effort into figuring out how far away the sun was in the beginning. And you can see that they came up with drastically different ideas for it. It was continuously fooling them all the way from 3 million miles with Copernicus up to what we have now, 93 million. At one time, they had 105 million. And I think the only reason that they tried to put it that far away was, even with Copernicus, was to support this idea of a heliocentric model. People just bought into it.
Yeah, but you see, they have a confidence on them that makes it sound like it's true. So people just accept it. That's it.
It's true. It is written. And there's the problem. There's right there in modern times. There's a problem because you've got what is mainstream. So you'll see that probably in 100 years from now or so, people go back and look at today's history, and they're going to go by that. They're not going to know that there was a group of people unless, we finally wake everybody up. But they're not going to know that there was a segment of the population that didn't believe that the globe was a reality. Just like we don't know that there was a large segment of the population 100 years ago from us that did not believe in the globe, despite their saying, 2,000 years of science and shit. There was people 100 years ago that were, no, the earth is not a globe. And 100 years before that, there was more people. It wasn't like it's been a thing that's been prevalent, but that's what the actual history is going to show, is that everybody, they've always thought it was a globe. That's what it would be like if they looked at it right now. But we know that not to be true. So that's why I'm real skeptical of written history. You start looking into it because you start finding stuff that's like, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't really connect. How does that take place? And then there's always some kind of like impossible little structure built in to fill in the gaps, and you're like, yeah, like the Chicago fire.
Exactly.
Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over a lantern. Well, how come Mrs. O'Leary's was one of the only buildings that never burned? What's up with that story? Why is that a common thought when evidence shows that was probably most likely not the cause of the fire? And why were they trying to persecute Mrs. O'Leary? That's what I'm trying to figure out, But history will show, that's what the narrative is that this cow kicked over a lantern and burned down the city of Chicago. Come on, man.
But yeah, guys, this is Solve's backup channel link. It's in there. Solve's Place. Do go and subscribe to his backup channel.
Yes, sir.
If you're looking for him. Of course, he is streaming on there right now till he gets his main channel back up.
This is really wild. Last night on my analytics in studio, when I got off, I had 482 views, right? I got up this morning and looked, and it's down to 391.
Oh, so it's not just my channel that does that.
I'm like, what the hell is that all about?
When I finish my streams, usually it shows me like 1,000 views or something.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, 800.
Yeah.
Or 600.
I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense.
It goes down. It's really odd.
Is people go in there maybe and unwatch your show? I don't. How does that happen?
even where it shows live, and it shows me, for instance, I've got 100 people watching live. Mm-hmm. It will say my views will be 65, 70 people maybe.
Right. Well, how do they?
But live, it's showing live 100 people watching.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
So yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, I'm going to be focusing a lot more on Rumble, I think. But
the thing is, a lot of things are going to start changing on YouTube though, because of all this AI integration rubbish.
Yeah.
So
I've seen channels that I used to watch that are using AI shit now, like an AI summary at the end of it and everything. Where
the problem is because all these just AI channels are popping up everywhere, they're going to be taking away mostly anything for everybody else. Yeah. It's going to run everything. And it's just going to become an AI platform that just gives adverts to everybody though constantly. That's all YouTube's becoming.
Yeah. The commercials are getting crazy too, man. It's like,
yeah, but I mean, what did they bring out now? Even the people that's got premium,
yeah,
they get adverts now.
Yep.
Then why the hell are you paying premium?
Yep. They're going to be their own demise. They will. They'll end up being their own demise.
So yeah, it's quite crazy.
Oh, that's all right. Let them do what they got to do. I'll adapt, improvise, overcome.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works.
But yeah, I got to go. Thanks for coming, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody. Much blessings. And then I'll see you all tomorrow night. May the pressure be with you. Cheers, guys.